Hello, I'm Richard Watson, and this is L'anglais the Easy Way. Here's a question for you this week. What's actually difficult about English? No, I don't mean is English easy or difficult. I mean, what's difficult about English compared to other languages? As we mentioned before, English doesn't have the same kind of conjugation of tenses as French. It doesn't have genders. It doesn't have different forms of adjectives. We don't have that kind of stuff. So what's actually objectively difficult about English? Well, we have a lot of words, of course, a huge vocabulary in English. Not all of it is used, and obviously you don't need it all, but you could encounter a lot. Because of the mixed history of English, we often have words from the French side of English and from the Saxon, Anglo-Saxon side. If you take an example of an adjective for a king, we have some words that come from French, like majestuous or royal, but you also have the Anglo-Saxon ones, like kingly or regal. So that gives you 4 adjectives for a king. Again, you don't need them all, but you may be confronted by them. So that's the first kind of challenge to English. English has a lot of vocabulary and a long history of borrowing from other countries, a long history of colonization, invasion, plus the fact that there's no real academy or anything like that in English, right? There's no final say on what is English or not, which means that English is organic and it grows. And when you go to other countries, you just pick up words. I think there are something like 3,000 new words in English every year. Now, don't panic. Most of them are scientific words that you'll never need, but that is a challenge, a lot of vocabulary. But most languages are like that, right? Large vocabulary. What else? Well, we've got some structures that are complicated, but nothing like French. You can basically pick them up and use them as plug and play. Change out the subject, change out the verb, everything will work fine. We'll come to that another time perhaps. But the big challenge in English, I would say, the biggest challenge is pronunciation. A lot of people learn English by reading. And as I mentioned in another episode, they invent the pronunciation of their words. Everyone has their personal pronunciation of English, which doesn't correspond to anything else except themselves. And that's why so many people say, man, English people don't pronounce properly, or they eat their words, or they don't articulate. Well, that's the way English is pronounced. The advantage of the complexity of English pronunciation is that it's actually very useful. The fact that, for example, we don't say photograph, we actually say photograph, makes it easy to separate that word from another word that's very close, like photographer or photographic. We're putting a stress on a different syllable in each word, which means that they actually sound really different. I'll give you them again. Photograph, photography, photographic. We're moving the stressed syllable back so that those 3 words actually sound really different. It makes it much easier for us to understand the words. Other languages don't do that. Other languages stress every syllable, or you could probably say don't stress any syllable, like in French. And so you have to articulate every sound in every word, which is extremely difficult for English speakers, especially when you've had a couple of glasses of wine. I remember asking someone when I first arrived in France how to say the word electricity, and they said électricité, and I said, great, just like English, electricity. And they said, no, it's électricité. I said, yeah, electricity. And they went, no, you have to pronounce every syllable. And I couldn't believe it. That's a lot of work for English speakers. A lot of moving your lips and mouth that we don't do in English. So English pronunciation is tough, and especially because we have a lot of different accents that people cannot even imagine. People often say, American accent's difficult, but English from England is easy. That's because you haven't traveled around England. Go to Yorkshire, go to the north, go to Cornwall, or even worse, go to other parts of the UK, go to Scotland, go to Ireland, go to Wales, then tell me how easy it is. But guess what? It's the same in the United States. Not as bad, but similar. Go to Kentucky, go to Arkansas, go to Alabama, and you'll see that people speak differently. Again, it's not the end of the world, and it's just a question of practice and relaxing into it, basically. But it is there, for sure. So what else is difficult about English, technically? Well, we have a thing that is a bit special called phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are verbs that are made of more than one word. You know some of them for sure, like to wake up or to get up. But you probably don't know all of them, or certainly don't know all of them, and there are plenty of them, and they're very subtle. And sometimes the same phrasal verb can mean different things in different situations. For example, to take off. Most people would know the word take off is something about a plane leaving the ground. Okay, that's true. The plane takes off. But if you put an object onto that verb, to take something off, then it's like taking off your hat. Take your hat off. Take your shoes off. And if you take off a person, that would mean to imitate them. Like he's taking off Chirac, or he's taking off the Queen, or he's taking off Donald Trump. So 3 different forms. Again, we don't mix them up because we use them in different ways. But if you learn that in a list and not in a context, it's impossible to learn. So phrasal verbs will come to you naturally when you encounter them. But whatever you do, don't make a list and try and learn them. It's a disaster. Are there other complicated things in English? Yep, there are plenty. But these are the ones that stick out to me. And especially for French speakers, these are the tough ones, I think. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.